Okay, so thanks so much for being with us. Give us some insights into corporate finance and some of the different things you've done. Maybe just start with some background, right? When did you graduate? What'd you study? Kind of career path? Just give us some of your story.
Yeah, for sure. So I run on the call. Great to meet you virtually. Josh Lyman. So I went to Utah State for both my undergrad and my master's. So I graduated with my undergrad in economics with chemistry and finance minors in 2019, and then did the master's of financial economics in 2021. So I've been graduated for about a year and a half. Now I work out of the Bay Area remotely. So I'm in Utah, but I work for a company that manufactures surgical robotics, and I work on mergers and acquisitions. And so I'm more on the project management team after we've acquired a company, and then how do we merge them with ours. So that's a little bit of context. Ryan, I have a slide deck as well.
Perfect.
So I can share that.
Yeah, let's do that. Let me make sure I can allow you to do that. Okay, give that a go.
Okay. Now let me share. Let me know when you can see.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I put together just like an agenda for the things I'd like to share with all of you. What I kind of want to do a little bit backwards, and I want to first share about my company Intuitive, and that will give you an idea of the work I'm involved with. And then I want to talk with you all about the summer internships that we offer. We do offer finance internships, and so they're definitely all corporate financed. And so for those who are interested, you can connect with me, or we can talk on this call as well. So after I talk about our internships, we can do a Q&A, and then I'll wrap up with giving kind of context about myself and my career path, and then give a simplified version of mergers and acquisitions, since that's the work I'm currently working in. Yeah, so anything else, Ryan?
No, that's perfect. That's perfect. Yeah, let's yeah, like I said, I'll jump in to ask questions as we go. So you just get us going.
Okay, cool. I'm going to start first with the video. So this is going to be a good overview of what my company is. It's the video I saw before I interned with them. And I was like, oh, this company is so cool. This was back in 2014. And so, or not 2014, 4 years ago. So 2018. So the numbers and statistics provided are a little off, but I'll give updated numbers afterwards. But Ryan, let me know if I'm going to start this. Let me know if the audio comes through.
I don't hear anything on my end.
It's not sharing right now. Okay, hold on. Okay.
Yep, there you go. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, so that's an overview of the company back in 2018. I'll click through. Let's see. I don't want to start this over again. Hold on, let me go to the next slide. There we go. Okay. Yeah, so we were founded in 1995. We're based in the Sunnyvale, California area, so kind of Silicon Valley. We are considered the pioneers of robotic assisted surgery. So we really have led this in this area, in this industry. And it's becoming a lot more prevalent now, which is exciting. And so in total, we've been around for 27 years. But one exciting thing is our former CEO, he was actually a Utah State grad. He got his electrical engineering degree at Utah State and then his MBA at Harvard. And then he was recruited to, like, at the beginning of the company to kind of grow it for the next, I think it was like 15 years. So we have a few Utah State alums in the company. Like I mentioned, so we do surgical robotic systems. Our first system was created in 1999. And so this one's kind of ugly, you can see. It's called Da Vinci, but it's got like a bunch of tubes, or had a bunch of tubes at the beginning. But we've just iterated on this design since then. And really in 2014 is when we launched kind of our flagship Da Vinci product, which is Da Vinci Xi. And they're just these large robots that have 4 arms. And then surgeons, they'll sit in a console in the operating room and they'll operate through the robot. And so there's a lot of benefits that provides to the surgeon. I think, like, you can probably think of a few. Like, first off, it makes it really stable when you're doing surgery. Other benefits are you can look really, like, directly inside the body as you're doing surgery, and it makes it really easy to do that. And then my personal favorite is you get to sit down while you're doing surgery, so you're not standing up for hours. But we've recently started to expand into other products. So this, in 2019, we released Ion, which is a diagnostic platform for lung cancer. All of these products you really have to see in person to really appreciate, but I've had the chance to play with all of them during my time with Intuitive, and they're pretty incredible. So some updated statistics from the video. So we have 69, or Da Vinci's in 69 countries. We've trained over 50,000 surgeons. And then every 20 seconds is when a Da Vinci surgeon or surgery is started. And then we've performed over 10 million procedures so far worldwide. So a lot of robotic surgery has been taking there's been a lot of traction in the past decade. In terms of our employees, we've got 11,000 employees worldwide. Each one of these blue dots is a physical location. And so we've got a bunch of locations in North America, EMEA, and Asia. And then in terms of our mission, we really believe that minimally invasive care is life-enhancing care. So we're really focused on, being as minimally invasive for the patient as possible. That way they can get back to, what matters most for their lives and getting out of surgery. But we also, we focus on expanding the potential of physicians to heal without constraints. And so I've heard a few of our leadership in the company talk about, we'll never replace the surgeon. Really, what we're doing is we're giving the surgeon superpowers for the patient and giving them a tool that they can provide value to the patient more than they could on their own. And so in terms of our stakeholders, the patients, number one, they're the most important. Then our next stakeholder is physicians, then hospitals, payers, employees, and shareholder values last. So really, by focusing on the patient, we think everything else will come. And our leadership, they've really created a great philosophy and great culture in our company. Since this is a finance class, I did want to share, we are public. We IPO'd in 2000. We have had great growth in the past 20 years. Recently, not. We've gone down because of as is everyone. But the company really has a great trajectory. So that's a little bit about the company. I do want to share about summer internships. We offer every summer an internship to about 200 students worldwide. These are 10 to 12 week programs, and we take students from all sorts of disciplines. A lot of engineering students, since we're very engineering focused, but we do have a lot of finance internships and then also marketing internships, and like data analytics. So I think finance and data analytics go hand in hand a lot of the time. So if you're kind of interested in that realm, that's an avenue you can go as well. When you're in the intern program, every week you'll be a part of an executive speaker series. This is where we have like our CEO or other chief executives. They'll come and they'll speak to the students and share kind of their career paths, and then also kind of the history of Intuitive and where we're going. I did 2 internships with Intuitive. It was awesome, and it was great to be able to hear from these leaders. These are like veterans in Silicon Valley, which is really cool to get that their perspective.
Where are the internships located?
Good question. We got 2. So one is going to be Sunnyvale, California, the Bay Area. That's our largest one. The other is Georgia. That one's a smaller group. And so it just depends on the role that you go for.
And you did both of yours in Sunnyvale?
I did my first one in Sunnyvale. The second one, I was going to be in Sunnyvale, but it was during COVID. And so I did it remote.
So it didn't okay.
Yeah. Our intern program now is fairly on site, and they push that. So I don't think they'll permit remote internships moving forward. So
okay. Sounds good.
Yeah, good question. Other experiences during the internship, you'll do lab tours. So you'll actually be able to see the Da Vinci being used. You'll also go through manufacturing tours to see how it's made. And then there's a bunch of social events throughout the summer. In terms of work, you'll generally be given either 1 to 2 projects that you'll work on throughout the whole summer. And a lot of the teams, they think beforehand of what projects they want to give to their interns. So these are definitely, they're great projects, worthy for your resume. And then you'll come at the end of the summer and do a presentation to the whole company, which is really cool. And these internships, they are paid, and they pay fairly well. So if you're interested, I highly recommend looking into them.
What's the timeline? That was my next question.
Yeah, in terms of timeline. Yeah, so really we open applications in September and we start closing them in January. The finance applications, they actually end around November. And so they might be kind of closed for this year. But if you're a sophomore or even a junior, really you can look into applying next fall for summer 2024. Other than that, we do offer plenty of other internships. So if you find something outside of finance that you're interested in, you can also apply to that as well. So, but yes, internships then they start in May or June, and you kind of have 2 choices when to start, and then you'll end August or September. In terms of kind of who comes, we recruit kind of all over the country. We do recruit internationally as well. And so I remember during my time, I had several interns that were from like Stanford, Harvard, Yale. And so you're really interning with high caliber students, which was really exciting when you're kind of in the Bay Area and you're around these 200 students that you interact with weekly. You get a great network, and you get to learn just a lot of different perspectives. So in terms of
how did this come across your radar? How did you get connected? I mean, this isn't
yes.
kind of I mean, obviously you had a chemistry minor and you had some different interests in terms of when you're doing your undergrad, but what How did you come across it? How did you get connected with Intuitive the first time around?
Yeah, good question. Really, so I was originally a pre-med student for everyone here, and I had stayed on that track for a long time, where I was kind of thinking, maybe I'll go to med school, but I decided to take some time to explore and go into kind of the business school. And I kind of straddled both paths for a long time. And so when I looked for internships, I looked for internships that would be applicable to both areas if I wanted to go to med school or if I wanted to go to kind of down the business track. And I had a friend that worked with Intuitive, and I saw he interned the year before I did. And I saw that and I was like, wow, that company would be like perfect. That would be awesome to do. And so I just reached out and talked with him about his experience. And he told me. And so I hopped online and I saw that they had finance positions, finance internships. And I was kind of nervous because I think I applied probably late October, maybe early November. And I wasn't sure if like how long the process they were with their kind of interviews or applicants. So I just started messaging and emailing kind of everyone at the company I could. And finally I got in touch with, let's see, the head of HR's son and did a call with them. And then they referred me to their mom. And so that was literally like, I will say like your network is everything when it comes to internships. I think every single internship I've ever gotten was through my connections. And really, realistically, everything, like even my jobs have always come down to connections. And I hate that that's the case a lot of the time. But your network is so powerful when you're looking for kind of jobs, internships. Yeah, so if you're looking for internships right now, reach out to people you know. You never know what's open. So
Perfect. Thanks.
Yeah, good question. Okay, so for our finance internship, we take about 12 finance interns. The scope of the areas, they really focus on corporate finance, but we also have like what you can call finance sales operations. So like working with our sales teams. And then there is like accounting roles, if anyone here is interested in that. The program, all the internships are focused on like, working with the teams and helping. But they also focus a lot on your personal development. So we did like a weekly finance course where we'd meet with like finance executives in the company. They would teach us about their areas. I remember we had one team from like the treasury department come in, and I was like, treasury sounds so dumb, at least in my mind. But I came out of that and was like, that is the coolest role in finance, because it's like, it's honestly, treasury is kind of like an investment role. And you're handling, what you're doing is you're handling the cash of the company and you're investing it. So you'll learn a lot through like the program, things you normally might not have. In terms of the skills you'll develop a lot of like data analysis skills. So like working with Tableau, working with Excel, working with SQL. And so those are skills that would be good to kind of learn during your schooling if you want to apply, because they'll love to be able to see that on an application. If you go through the internship and, if you do well with the company, they really have the internship to be a pipeline to their finance development program. This is a 2-year program that has 3 rotations, and the rotations are 8 months each, and you just rotate in different roles throughout the company. And so it's a great program if you're like not quite sure what you're wanting to do within finance, because this allows you to kind of explore in a large public company.
So what are the 3 rotations? Like which areas?
So they just vary. There's more than 3. There's all sorts of them. So
but
for example,
you do 3 8-month rotations, and you get to maybe pick the 3 areas you're interested in. So just give us an example. What are a couple of different areas that would be considered?
Yeah. So you would have, for example, treasury, I mentioned, that would be a rotation. Another one could be So I was mentioning finance, sales, operations. We sell like a bunch of product. And so we need to do kind of analysis and trends on those sales. And so you could be like the financial analyst partner to those teams, and you're kind of doing the modeling. Another role, and this would be kind of working with like our product team, would be just like, I don't know what you'd call it. You'd just be like a financial analyst with the product division. You would be kind of doing financial modeling for new products and calculating net present value. So during my internship, that's the team I was on. And so we were developing I shouldn't say the engineers were developing a new product. And I partnered with them to kind of forecast, okay, this is the expected revenue. This is the expected R&D costs. These are the expected kind of maintenance costs when the product launches. And then you take that and you discount it backwards to get the net present value to determine, is this a project you want to move forward with or not? So that's like a very traditional corporate finance topic you'd learn in corporate finance. So
perfect.
Yes, lots of different types. It comes down to like, what's the need in the company? And so like different teams will say, hey, we'd love to have a rotation over here. And then it's a conversation with the analysts on where they want to go. Good question. For those who are graduating and still looking for jobs, you don't have to go through the intern program to apply for this either. And so we'll post these positions generally toward end of spring, but sometimes we'll also post them throughout the year. And so if this sounds interesting to you, you can go to our website. It's intuitive.com, and you can watch for job postings there. You can also email me if you're interested. Okay.
Great.
This is just a tidbit on what we look for in candidates. There's 4 major areas. We call it our CCEE model. And they rank in order of importance. So the most important one to us is character. And we're really just looking for people who have high integrity, who are humble, they're motivated, and eager to contribute. Probably not too different from what other companies are looking for. But our leadership really talks about how we can teach you all the skills you need on the job. But what we can't teach you is how to be like a good person, or we can't change your character. And so that's the first thing we'll look for. And so that's something you can highlight in your resume and in your interviews. Second is capacity. So this is kind of thinking about, how much work can a person take on? Are they a problem solver, and don't stand by? Third, energy. This is kind of like how it kind of goes with self-starting. You're solution oriented, you're kind of upbeat, you're positive. And then the last one is experience. And this is last as in, we'll look at your experience, but again, we can teach you what you need to know. So as I was mentioning, you can look on our website, careers.intuitive.com for any roles. You can also watch on LinkedIn. So I think you can set up notifications on LinkedIn. So that's the way you can go about it. But yes, that's everything about Intuitive that I want to start off with. So I want to pause here, open up for questions to the group. I can answer questions about Intuitive or the internship, or I can keep going. So
any questions? And there've been a couple, and I've asked them along the way in terms of where are they located in the timeline. I've had people chat me questions or message me with some of those questions, and I've just asked those along the way. So anybody else have anything else you want to ask at this point? Anybody have questions? Yeah, let's just keep going, and I'll chime in as they come in.
No problem. Okay, so about me, I already kind of gave this intro. So bachelor's and master's at Utah State. In terms of extracurriculars, I was part of Huntsman Scholars and Koch Scholars, both great programs. I also worked as a research fellow for the Center for Growth and Opportunity. Worked with Ryan for that as well. So all of those programs are great. I'm assuming lots of you are probably involved with these. In terms of my previous internships, I had several throughout college. So I had a total of 5. And I really just focused on getting lots of different experience because I just didn't know what I wanted to do for a career. And Ryan knows this. I talked with him for lots of hours. And internships are a great way to kind of explore. And they're also a good way for like making money for as a student. So a lot of internships, they'll be paid and they're paid pretty well. There's a few that aren't. For example, this Sorensen Impact one that I did wasn't, but still a great experience. So I'll talk through these. So my first one was a corporate development intern. This was with a company in Salt Lake. They are a physical therapy manufacturer, and they're also public. This is really where I got exposed to mergers and acquisitions. They acquired 2 companies the year before I joined. And so I was able to kind of talk and learn from the leaders there, but then also did kind of a host of other corporate development activities. My second internship, I worked with a startup in Logan called Electric Power Systems. Some of you might be familiar with them. They make electric batteries for electric vehicles. I was what was called a PP&C analyst. It's kind of like a financial analyst, part kind of program manager or project manager. And so the company was awesome. I was with them for 3 months and then moved over to doing my venture capital internship with Sorensen Impact. Sorensen, their student program at the University of Utah. This is where, if you're interested in kind of like building businesses or investing in businesses, I couldn't recommend Sorensen more. My role when I was there, was to look and evaluate medical device startups and determine if we should invest in them or not. So awesome experience. Definitely, it gave me a much stronger business acumen than I was getting from my coursework, because you're really applying a lot of the skills you're learning in your courses. So, and then 2 internships at Intuitive, financial analyst, and then a business strategy intern.
And just another plug, we actually have a student-run venture capital
right
here at the university now. So Old Main Ventures, we had someone from them come and talk to us previously in the semester. So you don't have to go to University of Utah now to do something like that, but there are lots of options. Sorensen Impact, University Growth Fund, a variety of these student-run funds to get your foot in the door and get some initial experience and kind of set you up for better internships down the road. Right.
How many students do you take for Old Main?
Usually this last semester they've had 8, but it just kind of depends. This is a first semester, so they're ramping up kind of as we speak.
Cool. Awesome opportunity for everyone here. Yeah, Sorensen's great, but it's nice not to travel every Friday down to Salt Lake from Logan. So it's good to be able to have a venture fund on campus. Okay, other than that, these are 2 fun things that I've done. Entrepreneurship wise, I love entrepreneurship. So during college, I started a startup with a few engineers and we made a physical therapy product. We won Utah's medical device competition. Other than that, if any of you are country swing dancers, I have a dance hall in Logan called Sage Hall. It's at the Cache County Fairgrounds. So we do dances Tuesday nights. So if any of you are interested, you can go swing by. So,
literally, you can swing by.
You can literally, no, yeah, pun intended. Okay, so my work, now I'll shift into talking about my work at.
Hey, let me ask you one other question that came up in terms of your time at USU, kind of your coursework. I mean, obviously you were doing medical, then you're doing business. You're kind of in between in terms of what, the type of company you're working for and doing M&A. Can you think of anything that kind of stands out as being helpful in terms of your coursework or in terms of your internships or just what, how did you feel like you got the most bang for your buck in terms of your education?
Yeah, good question. I definitely think finance I'm very biased. Like it's probably the best major because honestly, all my courses have been very applicable. I think probably what has In terms of the work I do, what was most valuable was the advanced investments course. I don't know what one that one, 460 or something.
No, that's an initial investment. So it's Paul's class, right?
Paul's
what you're talking
class.
about? Yeah. So
Yeah,
I've been 5,000, I think is what it's.
that's the 5,000 level. Okay.
Yeah.
That course was probably one of my most valuable courses because you do in-depth financial modeling, where you're forecasting the income statement, and you're connecting the cash flow statement, you're connecting the balance sheet, all that. Like, you don't really understand that until you've done it, and Paul's class will get you to do it. And so really, I feel like I didn't understand financial statements at all until that class, even after taking accounting 1 and 2. And so that class was relevant in terms of like Sorensen. So if you're wanting to go in venture, that's exactly the work you'd be doing. But to this day, understanding the financial statements are so important for thinking about like mergers and acquisitions. When you're evaluating companies, you're wanting to understand their cash flow, and just thinking about it, it teaches you how to think about businesses. So,
And just another little plug. So that class, Paul has a new class. It's called Essentials of Financial Modeling. That's, I think 3020 is the number, because students were taking that one too late and they needed some of that material before so they could do internships. So there's kind of a series. There's a Fin 3020 that's kind of the beginner version of that. And then you can dive deeper once you get to the 5,000 level course. So those are
Great.
options.
Yeah, I would have taken it. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so my time at Intuitive, I mentioned, so my first internship, I joined May 2019 as a financial analyst intern. I mentioned I was working on kind of like our product team, doing financial modeling, NPV analysis. After that, they gave me a full-time offer to come to the finance rotation program. I learned during my internship that financial analysis wasn't what I really wanted to do long-term for a career. And I told them, I love the company, but I'm more interested in a different role. So I'd love to come back for another internship. And so that went off really well with the company because they're like, oh, we're not losing this candidate who we've kind of worked hard for. He's just kind of exploring roles. And so I found another role, which was a business integration strategy and operations intern. Kind of a mouthful. But it's on our M&A integration team. And so this was something that was really new to me. When you acquire a company, there's a lot you have to do before then. But really the meat of the work happens after you acquire the company. And in terms of like, what do you actually do with it? And there's a lot of integration that you have to do. And so we had acquired a part of a company in Germany back in 2019. And I was brought on to help kind of project manage that integration. And really interesting. It was during COVID, and so we're all doing Zoom. But I got to see a lot. I stayed on through school and just kept working remote part-time and came full-time in July as an associate. And so I continued with my internship work, where just a lot of project management, working with kind of the different groups on both sides of the company. But I also then brought in my work into like helping with due diligence for prospective acquisitions, and then doing kind of what we call pre-close planning. This is like, if you're going to acquire a company and you're kind of sure on it, then you start planning, okay, what are we going to do after we acquire? And then March 2022, I was just promoted to M&A integration specialist. So nothing changed, just title. But yeah, that's kind of my career path with Intuitive. I'll switch and just give you an overview of mergers and acquisitions.
Yeah, kind of like a day in the life, right? As well, in terms
of
what's your day. You're obviously working remote, so that's flexible to some extent. But
yeah,
how much time are you on calls? How much are you on Zoom? How much are you doing traveling or doing other things as well? So just give us an idea of the job.
Okay, awesome. Yep. that'll work. To kind of go into that, I'm going to share this M&A framework, and that'll help me speak to the day in the life. For me, mergers and acquisitions really felt like a big black box. I wasn't quite sure, like there's just so much to it. So this really helps me to kind of break it up. You can think of it as like there's pre-deal close and there's post-deal close. And then within these two phases, there's these sub phases where in the pre-deal close, you've got kind of target assessment. This is where you're going and you're like evaluating companies that you might be interested in. So you're just kind of trying to find targets. A lot of this happens organically for companies. A lot of the time is because you're partnering with like distributors, you're partnering with other companies that you're developing product together. And so a lot of these introductions are kind of already there. And, you kind of start thinking, okay, maybe we should bring them in-house, and you start approaching them. Other opportunities often will come through like investment banks. That's a lot of the time the role of the investment bank is to pair a buyer and a seller. And so investment banks will go to companies and they'll provide a pitch deck and say, hey, we're working with this company. Would you be interested in buying them? And so, for example, I think last year we were working on the due diligence and I was coordinating with the investment bank on different items we were looking for in terms of information to kind of inform our thesis on whether we should buy it or not. Okay, so then when you find a target that you're really interested in, you move into like more pre-deal evaluation phase where you're gathering those documents, like I mentioned. You're doing kind of exploratory due diligence. You're starting to talk through your company and getting approvals. And then as you get serious, you offer what's a term sheet. That's kind of giving a price to the company, and that enters you into like pre-close planning phase where you start planning out, okay, if we're going to do this deal, how will we do it? What will the integration look like? And then you have deal close, and that's where you move into your integration work. And so integration, that's a lot of the area I play in. And in terms of like day in the life, it feels like herding cats a lot of the time. Your focus is to kind of be a project manager for these two companies. And it's really interesting because you get to see so much aspects of the business. You're working with like the marketing teams, branding, finance, HR, IT, legal, kind of every function. And so in terms of work, I'll do is we have like a weekly call with our target company where we're kind of like, it's called our integration management meeting. We'll do a weekly call where we address like issues that are happening, or it's also a point where we can discuss, upcoming initiatives and projects that we need to do. But throughout the week, I'm also sending emails and hopping on calls to prep for those meetings. In terms of like in this phase, it's just traditional like project management where you're planning out work to get done and then keeping track of it. The pre-deal close, that really, in my mind, is the fun stuff. But Ryan, I don't know if that helps.
Yeah, that does help. How many deals are you guys working on at once? Like how many targets are you trying to acquire, or what's this look like? I mean, there's obviously lots of potential targets, but are you guys limited to one at a time just to keep it manageable, or do you guys have enough staff to do multiple acquisitions at once?
So the people who lead kind of this phase one target assessment, they're our business development team. And so they see lots of different deals throughout the year, like at least like 100. And they filter a lot of those before we start getting into like the pre-deal evaluation phase, because once we start getting into there, that's where you're bringing in like myself and a lot of other people within the company to start kind of doing due diligence. And so they filter a lot of those just to not take away the company's time. In terms of like how many we'll see, we honestly will see probably like 1 a quarter where that would come into the space. And in terms of like how many at a single time, I've only had once where like we had 2 going at the same time. And that what's difficult with mergers and acquisition is it's fairly opportunistic. You can't really tell when a great deal is going to come along. And sometimes you just gotta kind of work a lot. In terms of like hours though, like really most of my day-to-day like work, I'm not working more than 8 hours. Generally my week is no more than 40 hours a week. So my role is really like, it's pretty great in terms of like lifestyle and flexibility. So I know mergers and acquisitions sound like this like terrible area to work, but that's primarily like a lot of that comes from like investment banking. If you're thinking about working 80 plus hours, if you're more in like a corporate role, it's not like that at all. So.
Good. Favorite part of your job?
Favorite part is really being able to see a lot of business and a lot of different areas of business. So I definitely feel like a lot of the times there's drawbacks to that because you feel like the dumbest person in the room. But it's given me a great perspective on like starting and building companies. And so, for example, I mentioned I love entrepreneurship. So it's taught me a lot in that realm. So yeah, favorite part of the job, seeing a lot of different things.
What about least favorite?
Yeah, least favorite, the project management side of it. It is not fun to herd cats. So there's a lot of, there's a lot of following up with people, staying on track with people. It's shocking how once you get in the workplace, you'll find once people get comfortable in their jobs, they can get pretty lazy. And so that's my least favorite part.
That makes sense. Other advice you'd give to folks that are maybe interested? I mean, I think this is one of the great things with corporate finance is all companies have the need for, financial analysts, corporate finance. I mean, even if it's a very small, kind of understanding the financial side of it can be so helpful in terms of the entrepreneurship side and whatnot. But large companies, so it can be a surgical devices, it can be a more typical bank, it can be any type of company you can think of has corporate finance needs, and so you can kind of apply those tools to lots of different industries. Does working for kind of that surgical medical area, I mean, since you were kind of pre-med beforehand, how much of that plays into the enjoyment of your position in corporate finance?
Yeah, good. Yeah, that's a good question. You definitely want to be in an industry you like and you're excited about. And so being in like the medical surgical space really adds a lot to like my enjoyment with the company. Like it's awesome. Every single person in our company, one way or another, affects our patients. Because you're creating product that one day will be helping people, or you're actively like working with product that currently is helping people. In a finance role or like mergers and acquisitions role, we're looking at acquiring companies that we can then provide their product to our customers. And so honestly, it's so fulfilling being in like a medical device company in that way, knowing that, your work does have a lot of value. I know sometimes in like accounting or like finance, sometimes you're so stuck in the numbers that you kind of question like, okay, what's the value that you're providing? So that this has been awesome being with Intuitive. So,
anything else you wish you would have known, or what maybe didn't get in school that you would have liked, or feel like areas that you could have kind of been better prepared in?
Yeah. I think for me, probably the biggest like advice is when you're looking for internships or just work in general, be really intentional of what you want, where you want to go and what you want to do. I know it's hard when like you don't know what you want to do. And so you're kind of in the exploratory phase, but as long as you're being intentional, like, hey, I'm doing this for this reason, that will help you so much. And especially with like building your skills and resume. So be intentional. The other thing, if I could go back to college, I would probably start my own business earlier. You'll learn a lot when you're an entrepreneur. And, you know, I know college jobs, a lot of the time you're getting paid like pretty low. So, you know, might as well just work for yourself and try to find a way to make your living that way. It will just add to your education. And you might do well. And you'll learn so many skills that are applicable to your job later on if you choose to kind of work in industry. In terms of like advice I would give outside of that, I really think like I heard this given to me in one of these seminars, and it really, I've stuck to it for a long time, is the best job you'll ever find is the one you make for yourself. And that can apply obviously in entrepreneurship, but it applies anywhere if you're going to want to work for a company. You know, when you're applying for jobs, it's a two-way street where, you know, the company has a need that they're trying to fill. But you can tailor that as you kind of start with the role, and you can create the job that you really want. So, for example, my role, I've worked a lot with my managers on shifting the type of work I do and really carving your own career path of where you want to go. A lot of the time when you're kind of in a corporate environment, you'll be handed roles that aren't necessarily the work you want to do. But as long as you kind of have the perspective, like you own your career path, you get to choose what you want to do. That will help you kind of find the work, regardless of like your situation. You'll be able to find the work that you're most excited about, most passionate about, and probably do the best as well. So yeah, the best job is the one you make for yourself. That's helped me. So if anyone's struggling on finding what they want to do, just focus on that.
Good. That's fantastic. Anything else? Like this has been great discussion. Any other questions, students? Anything else you want to me to ask, or you want to ask, or anything else you can think of in terms of? I mean, that's been some great advice. I think that's great perspective in terms of how to think about your internships, how to think about your career, how to take control of it. Anything else you want to add to that, Josh?
I don't think so. I think the only other thing, like, remember when you're looking for jobs, I will emphasize again, look to your network.
How did you, I mean, obviously you use that in several different ways with different internships. How did you build your network as a student? Did you just reach out to people? Did you do anything else particular?
Yeah.
What advice could you give in terms of building out that network?
Right. So let me go up to my different roles. So first network that you have really easily right now are your students around you and your professors. So this first one, Dynatronics, I just had a friend, an upperclassman that had interned there the year before, and I just talked with him and I said, hey, you know, I'm looking for internships. And I don't even know how the conversation came up. I think we were just talking. He's like, oh, I worked for this place last year and you're a pre-med student. This would be like a great place. They do physical therapy. And so he sent me the company on LinkedIn, and then I just found their internships and applied that way.
So the first one was from a former student. You said the intuitive one was from a student as well, from a fellow student that had that intern the year before.
Yeah. So first one, your students around you. Intuitive was actually a friend. So he was not at Utah State. So you got your friends that you can talk with. electric power systems. This was through a professor. And so, yeah, he just let me know that they had a position on, I personally love electric vehicles. And so it kind of goes back to that intentionality. It's like I was excited to kind of explore that space. And so I just reached out to the CEO and said, hey, I'd love to intern, and applied that way. So Sorensen, again, this was another one that was just like fellow students that I had worked with. They referred me. And so that was the best way to get in. But in terms of Intuitive, just speaking more like, yes, I had my friend that had worked there before. But a lot of the work that got me into Intuitive was really cold calling, I guess. But I was messaging lots of people on LinkedIn and just said, hey, I'm a student. I saw this internship. I'm really interested. And these were people like in finance, HR. And I was just like, could you connect me with the right person? And everyone's wanting to help in that way. And really playing the student card is such an advantage. Anytime you just say, I'm a student, like people want to listen. And so, yeah, if you've got a company you're really interested in, you don't have to wait for jobs to open to go to them. You can reach out to them anytime and just be like, hey, I'm interested to work with you guys. This is what I'm looking for. Do you have any opportunities right now? If not, just keep me in mind and I'd love to stay in touch. So.
Hey, you talked a little bit before about kind of the work-life balance that, you're get reasonable hours and it's whatever. How do you feel like is that different, better when you're remote working? I mean, obviously,
yeah,
the company's in California, you're not in California, you're doing a lot of things remotely. Do you feel like that's easier with work-life balance, harder, like you can't turn it off because you're always kind of working and on call, or what? Talk a little bit about that balance.
Yeah, definitely easier. I love remote work so much. So originally the plan was that I would move to the Bay Area when I accepted my offer. But then like COVID was just continuing to go. And so I was like, hey, I'm just going to stay out here and work remote because everyone else was. So in terms of that, like really fortunate because I love Utah. I didn't want to live in the Bay Area, really. It's really expensive there. And then work-life balance, the role really is great. I will say though, and this is kind of going back to what I was saying, you own your career path. You really kind of have to defend your time because there's always more work you can do. And there's always like more work people can give you. But it comes to the point where you kind of you enforce boundaries and you say, hey, like I'm done. Or like, I don't have time for this week. I can do it next week. And so you kind of it's important for people to start enforcing those boundaries in their work. Cause I see colleagues of mine that are too afraid to do that. And they just get inundated with too much work and they don't speak up. And it makes it really hard for them. So yeah, you can always have work-life balance. That's what I want to tell you is as long as you're kind of making sure you protect that. So yeah, the question in chat, how's the balance between work and family? It's great. I personally, I'm not married. I don't have kids. So there's not much of a family balance I need. But I have like my extended family, like my siblings. So like great in that respect. Friends, like I go do things all the time. Yeah, my work day is like 8 to 6 and I'll take a 2-hour break in the middle of the day so I can eat lunch and go to the gym. And I have that flexibility. So yeah, very good.
Great. Hey, thanks so much, Josh. So I
Yeah.
assume if people have questions, they can reach out to you on LinkedIn or via email. I can post your information online, but it's pretty easy to find on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So if anybody's interested in kind of corporate finance or in Intuitive specifically, I'm sure you'd be happy to talk to them.
Yeah, yep, for sure. And LinkedIn would be the best. So just Josh Lyman.
Perfect. Well, We really appreciate you taking the time out of your day and talking to us a little bit about Intuitive and about your career path and about corporate finance. So super helpful. This has been fantastic.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me, Ryan. So thanks everyone for the questions. Great to talk with you. So good luck this semester and with finals upcoming.
Yeah, we're almost there. So anyway, have a good one. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks, Josh.
Okay. Thanks everyone. See ya.